Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join the United Way of Southwest Alabama Community Resource Network. We are happy to have everybody, and I always like to share this number because, again, this call started in March of 2020 in response to the COVID pandemic and the fact that we were all sent home and had no access to resources or information like we typically did pre-pandemic. And so we have continued on, and this is our 32nd gathering. What makes this group so special to our strategy team members and, of course, our participants is that we try to address or share information about current needs in our community and really focus on establishing connections and expanding each member's outreach and networking. So welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. Lori, if you want to go ahead and move on. Just a wonderful Zoom reminder, please mute yourself. That way you are not a distraction to the speaker or the other guests. Also, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We have a panel format this session, so there will be time at the end or in between presenters to answer or ask questions. And we are being recorded, and because this will be shared through YouTube on our United Way YouTube page. So, thank you. These are the strategic partners. This is the group that works together to put these calls together and solicit information from other community members and, of course, feedback from members of this group. And then, of course, we have some contributing members because we like to get periodic updates from 211, health department, school system, any other key members of our community. So I briefly touched on this a moment ago, but as you see on the screen, these are our meeting goals. This is why this group was created. And again, we stick to this session after session just to ensure that the participants have access to information, new programs, new initiatives, or anything that might expand their work and improve the lives of the clients or the people that they support on a daily basis. Okay. All right. So we are in disaster season. I don't say the H word, and those of you that know me know why, because I'm the VOAD chair for Mobile County, and VOAD is Voluntary Organizations Active in Disasters. And so, and if anyone is interested in becoming a member of that group, you are very welcome to join us. It is a group of faith-based organizations, other nonprofits, community organizations that just work together to really ensure that our community has access to those pre and post disaster needs. And so being that it is August and we all need to keep disaster preparedness on our minds at all times, we wanted to invite a representative from the Mobile County EMA. So she is active in our VOAD. And so Miss Letitia is here with us today to be a guest speaker to provide an update and also share some needs that they are working on at the Mobile County EMA to ensure that our community is safe. So Letitia, you have the floor, dear.
All right, thank you for having me. Just a few things I wanted to talk about today. We have an updated website and an updated app for both Android and iPhone, where information with regard to watches and warnings are released as we get those from the National Hurricane National Weather Service. It would also talk about points of distribution would be announced there, any sheltering information, individual and public assistance if it becomes available. So those are wonderful resources. Also wanted to touch on our Safer Places mandate. Governor Ivey signed into law in 2021. Safer Places initiative throughout Alabama. We pretty much have sheltering down pat whenever it comes to hurricane sheltering. But as far as sheltering for severe weather events, tornado watches and warnings, we have very few designated tornado shelters. So we have been mandated, every county emergency management agency has been mandated to identify and sign mutual aid agreements with those willing to participate, whether it be a business, an organization, a faith-based group, or house of worship. And this isn't a funded mandate, meaning all the participation has to be voluntary. We don't staff the facilities. We are trying to identify brick and mortar buildings where someone would have the staff to open during that time of that severe weather watch. And it doesn't have to be deemed a tornado shelter. It just has to be designated a safer place. That's why we're saying a brick and mortar. It's just to provide shelter during the watcher warning for someone coming off the street, someone in a manufactured home, or those people. We have several areas with RV parks that along the interstate and everything where people do construction and everything. We're just trying to give those individuals a place to ride out that warning that would be safer for them. We would provide signage as part of the MOU agreement. I don't know if the camera's on, the signage saying safer places, any statement saying that it's not a guaranteed safe place, or, and there is protective measures set in place under the law saying that any of those facilities that would open up, they are protected under legal liability. Meaning that unless it's gross negligence, they could not be sued, whether it is for the facility or the participants who are staffing the shelter. We would do announcements to let the public know that that facility was open. And if a facility agreed to participate, we're hoping, we don't have any signs yet. We have contacted 49 different churches and organizations throughout the county. We've determined where a concentration of mobile home parks and RV parks are, and tried to work brick and mortar churches and organizations specific to those areas. We have not had anyone actually sign an MOU with us at this point. So if you all could reach out to your church body, people or organizations you know of in your community, and have them reach out to the EMA if they're interested in sponsoring a Safer Places or hosting a Safer Places structure, and we can get started on that to make the people in that community safer. And I'd also like to announce Mr. Adair, the previous director here at EMA, has in fact retired August 1st. Mike Evans is the new agency director. Doug Cooper is the deputy director, and Ms. Sherry Crush has been elected or hired to be the director of planning and ops. So a lot of new faces. You're welcome to come by and visit, check out our training on the web page, and you all are welcome to training that's available to public entities and organizations out there.
Yes, they have a wonderful facility. I highly recommend utilizing their space. Letitia, you do have a question in the chat. It is, do you manage, or does the EMA manage the cooling centers through the EMA?
We do not. We have no plans right now for cooling centers because typically and I'm not telling anyone to go here, but there are places that people typically go during the day whenever it's really hot. They'll go to a library, a retail store or something. There's means available for cooling. Now, we do work for warming centers. Trista, you were heavily involved this past December whenever we worked with churches and a couple organizations to open warming centers, because during the night, those same structures aren't necessarily open for someone to get, heat. But with regard to the cooling centers, there's community centers open during the day that people can take advantage of, libraries and other sources to use as cooling. And especially right now with the way the weather is, we don't man those. And it would be a financial drain on any of the cities or municipalities to ask them to open a facility. So we're hoping people would seek out resources or structures where they could cool themselves off that's open to the public generally anyway.
And I see that Archnique has raised her hand. Did you want to speak on something that the city's been working on?
Yes, so the city does have its community centers open for cooling stations. If you go to cityofmobile.org, there is a listing of those centers there, as well as we've been putting those in the mayor's and the councilman's newsletters.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Anything else for Letitia from the EMA? Did I hear someone, or were they just having audio issues? Okay.
Ms. Trista, I'm going to add my contact here at the EMA in the chat, so that way anyone interested, feel free to reach out or pass the information on to any group or organization that you think might be interested in participating in the Safer Places program.
Thank you.
And thank you all for allowing me to introduce the program.
Wonderful. Okay. So now we're going to move on to our host organization information and update. Mary Howard hopped on from 211. She hopped on the call, but I believe she had to excuse herself for another commitment. So I'm going to put on my 211 hat with the help of Mary Howard, because she gave me the fun fact.
Thank you again.
And so I've placed the information that Mary shared with me in the chat. You see that so far this year, they have answered more than 8,000 calls. That's pretty spot on. Last year, it was a little over 11,000. So the top needs, again, the excessive heat is causing excessive utility bills. Rent, I've personally have received several calls this week looking for rent assistance or mortgage assistance. And then homeless shelters is also a top need. And you've heard this 1,000 times, I'm sure, but I'm going to say it again. 211 is only as good as the information that's on the database. What makes 211 so great is that all of our call specialists have a database of information at their fingertips. But if something's missing, or your organization's hours of operations or services have not been updated in several years, they're not going to have the most up to date. So there's the form, the link in the chat, it literally takes 2 to 3 minutes. So if you are new to this group and you do not think that your organization is part of the 211 database, go ahead and fill it out. And then a member of Mary's team over at 211 would reach out and, have a chat with you and just confirm the information that you shared. Are there any questions for 211? Okay, wonderful. Well, then I will pass it over to Brad Martin and Lori to talk more about Volunteer Connect and South Serves, and of course, our Community Resource Network listserv. So Brad, Lori, which one would like to go first?
I'll go ahead and start. And I'll start with the listserv because I've got that queued up in my clipboard. Let me see if I can paste this. We have 175 people on our listserv right now. If you're not familiar with a listserv, it's actually very old technology that works very well. And basically it is a way to send an email to the entire network and have it reach everybody, and then the responses go to everyone as well. So it is a way to facilitate communication between these meetings, and it's a great way to seek information as well as to share information. If you, let's see, did it post? I tried to paste. Did that work?
Yeah, it's posted.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that is the page you can go to if you have not subscribed. It's also the same link you can use if you're a member to browse the different conversations, of which there are 893 different subjects or topics. So we started this, as Trista said, about 3.5 years ago, and it has continued to grow. And so we wanted to make sure you knew about that. I will be approving memberships during this meeting. So if you subscribe, it should notify me, and then I can go ahead and approve you to get on. And we just find it to be a very easy way to share information because everyone has email, and it's easier than having one more tool to check. Regarding Volunteer Connect and South Serves, it looks like we've been doing a bit of cleanup and trying to make sure that everyone's information is active and up to date. If you are using Volunteer Connect or South Serves and you've had some staff turnover, please check with one of us and make sure we have the right people in our database. I know Lori can talk more about what they've been doing to help us sort of make sure that information is correct, but it just as 211 is only as good as the information that it has. Volunteer Connect and South Serves only work as well as they do because the information is current and the people who are asking for volunteers are actually getting those responses. Laura, you want to talk a little bit more about that, or?
Sure. So yes, we've definitely been trying to reach out to organizations who maybe haven't posted in a while, just to make sure that we have the correct people in the system and folks have what they need to be using those systems. And I will just pause, I guess, a minute to say, if there's anyone on the call who are not familiar with Volunteer Connect and South Serves, these are online platforms that are used for volunteer recruitment. Volunteer Connect is actually the United Way portal, and it's sort of the hub portal, and then South Serves is specific to the University of South Alabama, and it includes everything that's in Volunteer Connect, so the two systems communicate together. So yes, if anyone has new staff or changes that they want to make to their profiles in that system, please let us know. We want to make sure that's up to date. If you're on this call and haven't gotten into Volunteer Connect or South Serves and you want to recruit community volunteers or South volunteers, please let us know. We'll put our information in the chat. We're happy to help you get in and use that system. The students for South will be back on campus. I think now it's just a week and a half away. So just keep that in mind. We will have lots of students then back. And so if you have volunteer needs, or if you have needs that are in the system, they're ongoing needs, but maybe need to be updated, you maybe change something about what you're asking, maybe go ahead and check that information, make sure it's up to date and current. Because we'll definitely have a lot more activities starting in a couple of weeks as students get back on campus. And then I also wanted to mention, we'll be hosting something we call JAG-Serve, which is a nonprofit volunteer and internship fair. It'll be in November, and we're sending out information to all of our Volunteer Connect and South Serves users about how to get involved with that and come onto campus and talk to students about what your needs are. So be on the lookout for that information if you use those systems. If you're not using those systems, but you're interested in learning more about JAG-Serve, again, just email me and I'll put our information into the chat. So thank you, everybody.
That's all I got, Trista.
Okay, wonderful. Well, now we are going to transition into the main section of our call. We changed the format this session because we felt like this topic really deserved the full amount of time that we could dedicate to it. So we have a panel that is going to share their their input and how social entrepreneurship is implemented at their organization and the resources and supports that they have that they can offer our community. So first, we're going to start with Ms. Pat Scanland, and she's going to provide the group with just some background as it relates to what social entrepreneurship is and the benefits that this can bring to your organization or our community. So Pat, I think Lori's pulling up your spread or your spreadsheet. Listen to me. Your PowerPoint.
Know what to do.
Lori, I don't see the PowerPoint, dear. Well, Pat, as she pulls that up, if you want to just introduce yourself to the group, even though I'm sure everyone already knows who you are.
That's right, Chris. I'm famous. So there are the slides. But I'd like to first start out by saying how pleased I am to be here in the position I am in here today, because if you saw one of our first slides or if you've been to other meetings, you've seen my name as a member of our strategy team for the Community Resource Network, and I have been here since inception. And it's just been such a fulfilling opportunity for me to be a part of that. But today I get to kind of change roles and be in front of the camera, so to speak. And we're going to talk about a topic that is really dear to my heart and something I'm really passionate about. And these handsome guys next to me are going to start jumping in after me. I'm going to pass the baton first to Matt. But if you do know me, or if you've ever heard about me or my business, Scanland Consulting, you may know that the entire reason for establishing this business over 20 years ago now, which is kind of mind-blowing, was because I have such a heart and such a passion for nonprofit organizations, for them to be strong and viable and sustainable, the performance levels to be healthy and good. There are a number of issues that are common to all nonprofit organizations, but I think it's fair to say that one of the most, what most organizations face of all those issues probably is a need for consistent revenue, hard revenue that is there, that nobody's going to give it to you and take it away from you. That it's going to be income that over time will help you to become more sustainable as an organization, which is the other area that many of the nonprofits that I have worked with through the years, have really faced is, well, it's twofold. The first part of it is, I think that there just never seems to be enough money. And so it's tough enough with all the responsibilities just to be able to get enough money to operate, and sometimes maybe not even to operate effectively, which is a bit of a concern, right? And then so the other kind of part of that is somebody like me comes in and starts talking about long-term sustainability. And, they're looking at me like, what's that woman talking about? Because we'll be glad if we can pay the bills for this month. And so for a long time now, that's just been on my heart. And then if you also know something about me, somehow I got this nickname years ago, and people call me the grant lady. And interestingly, what we're going to be talking about today, or what I'm going to be talking about, really grants are not appropriate for this. Grants are wonderful supplemental funding that can come into an organization, but grants themselves will never really give you a strong foundation for which you can continue to grow into the future. And why? You may have heard me say that with social enterprises, the generated revenue is hard. What does that mean? It means that it's yours. And I mentioned that before. You can count on it week to week, month to month, even year to year. When you have hard revenue, unrestricted revenue, that's yours. And that's really where I would like to see organizations grow and move more in that direction. Grants are great for, we need a new piece of equipment, or we need a new facility, or on a rare occasion, they may come along to help to support some of your operational costs, but not generally. And so, you know, I want nonprofits to understand that while donations and special events and grants are great entities for raising development income, they provide, for the most part, soft revenue that won't be repeated. Social enterprise is very different, and with this, you would be generating revenue of your own, or as you will hear in a few minutes, you could become a part of another social enterprise that provides some funding for you. But I have to tell you before I even go any further that I have a bias, and my bias is that organizations, nonprofit organizations, if they're going to start any kind of social enterprise, that for me, the most effective kind is a nonprofit social enterprise that supports the operations of an organization. So we'll start there with my bias. Now, you see on the screen, there are, if you were to go online today and start Googling around to find out what exactly is a social enterprise, you would find numerous. I mean, it's probably, you know, may even be hundreds. And they all kind of boil down to one thing, but the definitions that I found that are out there, some are just so long and run on sentences, and you kind of lose yourself in there. So I thought, let me come up with a working definition that I believe we can all move forward and be on the same page with. So you can see it. Social enterprises are businesses. That's first and foremost, and we'll talk about that exist to maximize social impact. Well, guess who's having social impact? Your nonprofits. They exist to maximize social impact by using their profits for community benefit and the common good. So you can go to the next slide, Laurie, please. Thank you. So, there is a primary objective for every single social enterprise that's out there. But here's where we're going to boil it down. First of all, I said they are businesses. Well, I have to tell you something that you might like or you might not like, and that is, so is your nonprofit organization. You know, say, no, we're a charity. No, you're a business. And so we have to begin with that premise, because we'll talk about what the difference is, but basically, if you were to go and look at a for-profit business, yours in many ways needs to be modeled after that. And we'll talk about those components in just a second. But the primary difference is when a social enterprise generates revenue, the profits from that revenue are invested back into a nonprofit. And in some cases, several nonprofits, but they're invested back in. You don't, just like your own organization, you don't go paying, you know, your board, or you don't go paying folks who are your stakeholders, because the IRS would not be happy with that. So that money goes directly back into the organization to fulfill your mission, and then to help you to move forward to also achieve your vision. So again, down at the bottom, they're not in business solely to make a profit. and then give it back to their shareholders. They're in business to generate a profit to go back into the good work that y'all are doing out there. Okay, Laurie. All right, so there are several types of social enterprises. The first one is the one that I love so much, and you heard Trista use the term entrepreneurship. And that's totally appropriate, except that generally refers to a founder who is very innovative and does something a little bit differently than perhaps other nonprofits, in the sense of we see value in establishing a social enterprise. So, it is entrepreneurial in the sense that someone starts it, and you're going to meet one of those guys in just a minute, and I bet you're going to know him when you see him and hear his voice. I love this second bullet here, nonprofit. And basically that is just that it can be a for-profit business or entity that invests back. So it may be that there are businesses out there who are already set up as a social enterprise. They're still a for-profit business, but in many cases, they also have to share some of their profits with shareholders. The third one, socially responsible business, or businesses that operate in a way that benefits society. Well, you could say right now, oh, well, that sounds like my organization, my nonprofit. Well, you'll see in a moment that these are really designed to undergird financially organizations, whether they're providing human services, they're doing work in terms of cultural things or artistic endeavors or the environment. It doesn't matter if the business owner has an affinity or maybe even a passion for some concern. That business may say, I'm going to designate one or more nonprofits, the profits that come out of our business. And then number 4, and you might know that I forgot to look it up, but it's give one, get one. Donation a portion of proceeds. That's the model, and they really are out there all over the world. But there's one that a lot of nonprofit folks that I talk to know about, and it's a shoe. Who? Tom's. I knew we invited Todd here for some reason. See there, thank you. Tom's Shoes is a regular nonprofit business. I mean, for-profit business. But they have a passion for people throughout the world who can't even buy shoes. They're walking barefoot. So every time they sell a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes. So that's the whole give one, get one sort of idea. Okay, Laurie? Thank you. So some of this is going to sound a little redundant, but I tried to break it down, guys, to sort of the foundation so that you could really get a clear picture of what a social enterprise is. And we only have a short period of time today, so we're trying to, maximize the effort with our panel to get you some information, but we won't cover everything. So you say, well, some of this stuff sounds redundant. Well, trust me, I'm trying to get the point across to you from different perspectives, exactly what these businesses are. The first characteristic, though, is they have a social mission over a financial mission. And we alluded to it a bit differently earlier on one of those slides. And that is that they are in business, most importantly, for the social mission, whatever that is, your organization's social mission, over simply making a profit. And that goes for just about every social enterprise that exists today. They provide an innovative solution to social problems. Well, that solution really and truly is that they are able to invest in nonprofits and organizations like we have discussed already, environmental, cultural, etc. They have a self-sustaining business model. Now, if any of you have ever had me into your organizations, and I know there are people on here who have, or who have been a student of mine, or that we have talked at length about the topic, and that is that that's what I'm always concerned for you and your nonprofit organizations. How can we help you to make some changes within your organization that will help you first and foremost to become self-sustaining, meaning, and you may never be totally, by the way, but to the extent possible that you're not reaching out and into the community constantly for funding. And I tell you guys, when I talk to executive directors or board members in organizations, I find so often it's like, we are so busy trying to raise money that, to be honest, I think our mission falls by the wayside. And that's really tragic for a number of reasons. And one being that, you put yourself in a vulnerable situation with the IRS because everything that you do and every amount of funding that you bring into your organization needs to go back in. And over time, you should be growing and becoming more self-sustaining. But also, what we've already talked about, the other side of that coin is also becoming sustainable over the long term. And you know what, as I said earlier, you're not going to do that with grants and donations. They are wonderful, but this is giving you, these social enterprises are another avenue for you to move into to make you more self-sustaining and more sustainable for the long term. And because of the purpose of social enterprises, they have an impact that could and should be measured. How's the money being spent? How for the social enterprise as well as for the nonprofit. Okay, Laurie. All right. Again, two basic goals. The business is in place. And we could change that a little bit to say that the social enterprise is there to help you or help a nonprofit to achieve social, cultural, community, economic, and environmental outcomes. That's why your organizations are in place. It's true for for-profits too, but for nonprofits who are often dependent upon people within the community or other organizations to provide what they need to do the business that they do or to fulfill the mission of the organization. The return on investment for anyone doing that, or even anyone who might provide some funding or some, what product for whatever your social enterprise is, they want to see a return on investment, and that return on investment for a nonprofit or for a social enterprise providing revenue for that nonprofit is that you have anticipated outcomes and that you can demonstrate that you are achieving those. And of course, that second one is they're there to earn revenue and to support those efforts. So this is where we alluded to earlier. Social enterprises look like, they feel like, and they even operate like any traditional for-profit business. The only difference is that the profits from the social enterprise are invested back into social causes. Okay, Lori? Okay, and guess what? We said it earlier. Your nonprofit is a business. If you go forward with the plan to implement a social enterprise to help support your organization, to help you to fulfill your mission and achieve your vision, that social enterprise is a business, and so are you. So there are certain things that you need in place. And by the way, guys, this in a sense is talking about strategic management or maybe even strategic thinking in terms of the way that you lay out your organization. So you need a mission or a purpose for your existence. So does your social enterprise. You need a vision that guides you or your social enterprise into the future. You need goals and objectives that you put in place so that as you achieve those, you come closer and closer to achieving the vision that you've set out for yourself. And you have to have solid cost projections. You've got to, first of all, know your own organizations before you develop something to support those organizations. And these things need to be in place for both the original nonprofit and for the social enterprise. Okay, Lori. And as we said, they can be nonprofit as well. So ultimately, then, if you're following that approach and you're implementing a nonprofit social enterprise, then that nonprofit social enterprise is doing two things, really. They are generating revenue to invest back into your organization, but they're also allowing you to fulfill your mission at the very same time. And so I'm excited about those. And so I've got two examples there. And most of us, and somebody here today may even work for the Goodwill Industries in Mobile. Goodwill Industries has been around for 115 years. They're really throughout the country and maybe throughout the world. I'm not sure about that. But think about some of what you may know about them. So they work with populations that may have some difficulties or some challenges keeping them from being able to work effectively. And you'll find that even with when we hear from Matt about his social enterprise. So they began to look at their population and say, our job is to prepare them to work. So how are we going to do that? And many of you may even have been into the sheltered workshop that we've had in Mobile, but the sheltered workshop brings them in, teaches them some basic job skills or social job skills that begin to prepare them for working in the community. And then one of the neat things about it, and this is, you'll see in a minute, it's true for Ransom Ministries as well, Goodwill engages the community. So the community, how do they get their products that go into the workshops? Well, if you drive around your community, you're going to see some boxes out there, or you're going to see some distribution centers or whatever, where people contribute things that they no longer need, or perhaps say furniture or other types of things that we use every single day that may be in need of some repair, but there could be easily repaired and then sold back for a profit to the organization. And so the sheltered workshop, take the people there, take those products, and they learn to work with them. And so they're gaining job skills right there, just by learning to repair that furniture and whatever else may be there. So after having sheltered workshops going for a little while, I don't even have any idea how many years, but also if you drive around your community, you're going to see stores. You'll see them for other organizations and ministries as well. And those stores become a place to sell some of those products that we already talked about. And they become a place to continue training people who are more ready to go out to work into the community by learning the retail business. And so, it's a beautiful picture of a sort of an ideal nonprofit social enterprise because they're fulfilling their mission while they're generating revenue from the social enterprise. So, those are the kinds I'm excited about. And I'm not even going to talk about Ransom Ministries because its founder is sitting right here and I wouldn't want to mess that up. And he's going to talk about that in just a moment. Lori, one more slide, I think. There we go. So I'm getting a bit selfish here on this final slide. I now do a blog There is a post out on my website, which I'll put in the chat, and on my social media. It goes out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram every week. There's a teaser to remind people, but there's also a blog post. For the month of August, guess what our topic is? Social enterprise. So that will be kind of the next step, and maybe a place where you could learn more than we're able to provide today on social enterprise. And then the next thing I just wanted to say to you is, because there's no way under heaven that a presentation that will be as short as the one today, even with all of us being on the panel here, and that is that Matt and I have teamed up, and his lovely wife Tara too, and our heart's desire is to be able to go out into the community, either directly into your own programs or even to do community workshops, trainings, and so forth, to provide you with better information. And we also are available then to help organizations that are interested, to guide them in to the development and implementation of a social enterprise, or perhaps if you already have one in some shape or form, to help you to be able to strengthen that so it's doing what it needs to do. So thank you for the opportunity and for listening to me. And I'm going to now turn it over to the expert, Matt Armbruster, with Ransom Ministries. So here we go.
That's scary that I'm the expert. So I appreciate y'all having me. I'm just going to kind of give you a background of how we got into where we are right now, and then let you know kind of, because it is very scary. When I first got into nonprofit, we formed a Ransom Cafe in 2010 because I knew how to feed people. So we started Ransom Cafe, and one of the pre thing is we didn't want to do free handouts. So we started a donation only cafe where they could sweep floors, do dishes, take food, put money in a box if they wanted to, but participate in that process instead of us just doing it for them. So we started that, and as we got to know people, you might know we built a trailer that had washers and dryers and showers, and we let people take showers and do laundry. We kind of had them captive, so I just started talking to them, because many times I realized we give people what we think they need instead of what they really want. So we thought we would ask them, what are some things you want? One of the things that they told us was quit giving us free stuff. And I thought that was quite shocking because I thought that's what we were supposed to do. So they said, because we want to go to work. We want to get a job. And that was homeless people. That was people that were coming out of prison. That was people in addiction, people in poverty. We weren't really targeting any one person. We just wanted people that wanted a second chance. So we started really talking to them, and I thought, well, what if we had a place where they could learn these soft skills that a lot of us in this Zoom take for granted? We take for granted shaking someone's hand and you actually have to look them in the eye, or how to resolve conflict when someone ticks you off. You don't just beat them up. And that's kind of what we realized, is that conflict resolution and trying to get over those was a lost thing with them, so that we could get them a job, but would they be able to keep that job? And that's the thing, is everybody always wants, well, just get them jobs. Well, that don't work. You just get them a job, and then someone's going to make them mad. So then they're going to do something they're not supposed to. Something's going to go on at home that causes a trigger that causes them not to want to come to work, and they don't show up. They might fall back into their drug addiction. They might, whatever it might be. So we decided we would start these soft skill training classes. And what it was a classroom setting. They would learn about how to shake someone's hand, learn about character, learn how to take initiative, things like that. But as I did that, I realized too, which that was real successful, and we got people jobs and they were keeping them. I got some of them that started, that was in 2015. And in 2015, I got guys that are still working the same job today that they got when they got it in 2015. So it does work, but the problem was the ones that didn't work with. And so we try to figure out, well, what if we could take this, because I know there's a lot of educated people on the Zoom, and I'm not one of them, I don't like school. I didn't like school. I didn't like sitting through class. And so they didn't either. You know, a lot of my guys and ladies, they dropped out of school, or they didn't have the opportunity to go to college or go to high school at all. So we said, what if we had a place where they could learn in a book what let's say take initiative meant, and then they could put it to practice in a real life situation. So we did what every nonprofit, nice Christian organization does. We started making crosses. And I found out really quick that not everybody has that talent. And we made some real ugly crosses that wouldn't be able to sell. And so we couldn't make enough money to generate it, but it was a good way to start. So we decided, I just started really searching for ways that we could put people to work. We could give them a paycheck, because I believe that we can't expect them to come sit through class, do a bunch of work and not make any money, because they're going to go find a way to make money if we let them. So I found out about this organization because I'm a firm believer in that we need to collaborate. We need to work with each other. We need to get the ideas from each other. And so I called this place in Indianapolis, Indiana called Recycle Force. And they were a nonprofit that had been doing it for about 15 years. They take men and women coming out of prison. They put them to work tearing electronics apart. How many of y'all know everybody on this Zoom probably has an old computer, an old printer sitting in a closet somewhere they don't know what to do with? Well, first of all, as a commercial, you can send them to me and our guys and ladies will take them apart. So we started electronic recycling in 2019. I'll tell you this, revenue wise in 2018, we were at $258,000 as a nonprofit. When I started in 2010, our first year was $65,000. So we had 258. We started, what if we could do this recycling thing? So I got one guy, I actually went up to Indianapolis and I learned about what they do. They gave me all their buyers. I sat with them for 4 or 5 days. I learned how to do it. I had never taken a computer apart. I didn't even know you could take a computer apart. And I started watching YouTube videos on how to do it. I would set it on the bench and I would get a VCR and I would say, how do you take that apart? And I would do it. And me and this other guy, we would do it together. We started with one guy. He came from us from prison. He'd been living in his car for about 4 months. He came, he showed up to work, never missed a day. He was phenomenally mechanically inclined, way more than me. So he was really good at that. So he was actually became a trainer for us, so that when we had 3 people, he could train the other 2 how to do it. And now he wanted to be a mechanic. He's now a mechanic, has his own mechanic shop. And so we've seen him do a really good job of that. So in 2019, our revenue grew to 283,000. Oh, wow, 30,000 bucks. That was awesome. I thought, man, this got to be better than this. I thought it was going to be our savior, you know, and I'm going to tell you right now, social enterprises aren't your savior. They're just a way that you can generate revenue, but mostly it's a way that you can train the people that you're trying to reach to get self-worth and to get purpose. That's the whole purpose of what we do. And there's something about tearing electronics apart that's very spiritual, and also is very good at to get skills at problem solving. If you've ever taken a computer apart, there's a million screws and they're usually hid where you can't see them, and they drive you nuts because you can't get the thing apart. So it's a good way to resolve that. And we teach people those skills, how to work with each other, how to be employable, how to be in a team. So then in 2020, our revenues grow to $369,000. We started generating revenue. We had 8 or 9 people in our program. We started finding other ways. In 2020 or 2021, we rose to $583,000 in revenue. Same donor base, but I'm telling you, donors want you to show that you have skin in the game. So we were showing that we could generate some of our own revenue that was going back in the program, and all we needed their donations were to expand our programs. I know, like all of you, I was tired of going out and asking for money to keep my lights on and to pay my bills. I wanted to be able to ask for money to expand my program so that I could better serve the people that we were serving, which should be what our money's for. But most places that you get a grant, it's to build a project. I found out that really quick, and then you can't afford to make the project run because you used all the money that you got to make the project, And now you got to hire people to run it that you can't afford because the project doesn't generate revenue. So my goal was to come up with projects that could generate revenue. So in 2021, we rose to 583,000. That's what so then in 2022, I saw that we were generating and we were training many really good employees. So I started Ransom Staffing because many of the companies out there wouldn't hire them because they don't trust people that have been in prison, been in addiction. So what we were able to do is then kind of try before you buy. Hey, I want to let you try this guy. You pay me a bill rate, just like a staffing company. I keep them on my payroll. I pay them. I pay the workman's comp. I do all that. You try them. If you like them in 90 days, you can hire them full time. And that worked really good. That generated revenue that we didn't have as well based on our people we were training. So then in 2022, we had our revenue grew to $876,000 through staffing, through recycling, and through our contract that I signed with the city to use homeless people to pick up trash. And then that alleviates a couple things. It gets our homeless off the streets. So you that work downtown don't have people asking you for money or they're doing those things, but they're out there actually working, making a wage. They get paid through our program. We give them, we pay workman's comp. We give benefits. They stay in that program for 2 months. Then they go into recycling for another 3 months. So they're with us for 5 months before they even go out and get a job where I can say, hey, they've showed up for work every day for 5 months and they've done what they're supposed to. Does everyone do it? No. But we have an 83% success rate of the people that start our program, finish and go to work. And they stay in that job for at least a year. So I know it works. I just want to make sure everybody else understands that it does work, but it's not going to save you, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm struggling just like every other nonprofit right now in the summertime because donations dry up in the summer. And we all know that. So I still got to go out and ask for money. But it's a whole lot more enjoyable when I can go out and ask for money and say, hey, it's not to keep my lights on. It's not to pay my payroll. It's to expand my ministry. It's to expand our programs. So now we have on-house case managements that I never would have been able to afford. We have in-house therapists that are helping with the mental health part of it. And so I'll give you kind of an example of how it breaks down. Recycling last year in that 876,000, 160,000 of it came through recycling, 233,000 came through staffing, and 129,000 came through road to work. And then through my donations were generally $266,000. So that's 59% of our revenue came through social enterprises. If I gave you those numbers in 2018 when we started it, it was a very small portion. So when you're talking about social enterprises, they're not going to fix your problem right away. But if you stay with it, now my whole organization operationally is run by graduates. It's people that have come through my program, my director of operations, my director of recycling, my director of education, and my director of shipping and receiving are all graduates from my program, which has freed me as an executive director to actually go out and advocate for the people that we're actually trying to help, and also meet with people and try to raise money for other things. So it's really made my life a whole lot better. And we've done different things. I'm working with a nonprofit right now that they're selling a seasoning sauce. I gave them the recipe, showed them how to do it. They use their people to bottle it. We go out and we sell it. They're like, how in the world are we going to make money selling these $6.99 bottles of seasoning? I said, you're not. But it's going to put systems in place so that now you can do other things like have a service. Let's say you go out and do a cleaning service, or you go out and do lawn maintenance, or you do different things like that, that generate that revenue, that are going to generate a revenue that will actually help your organization. You have to start somewhere. It might be ugly crosses like we did, but you have to start somewhere, and don't be afraid that it's going to jeopardize your nonprofit system. It's not gonna, because you're going to put every penny you got back into that nonprofit, and it's going to make, and if you use the people that you're trying to help to use it as a training tool, it's a win-win for them. It's a win-win for you. We're taking people off the streets. We're giving them money that they're buying stuff in our community. So they're paying into the tax base, which it helps our city. They're no longer out there begging you guys that work downtown for money when you walk by them. They're out there actually generating, because that's the purpose that we're trying to generate in the people that are out there. Ours is called an ESE social enterprise. It's an employment social enterprise. It's using the employment to get them to go out and work. And so there's a couple places. Recycle Force I already named. Homeboy Industries comes out of LA. They take the worst of the worst gang members in LA. They put them to work, and they have multiple social enterprises. They have a bakery, they have a restaurant, they do electronic recycling, and they also have a t-shirt shop. And they do all those things to get their people they're trying to serve off the streets. Now, you might not serve exactly like serve people. You might just go, I don't know, I'm trying to use an example where everybody serves people, but you might not have total contact with them. So there's white label products that you can use. Go Google white label products. They're a product that comes blank. You put your label on it and you sell it. And that's all it takes. So you could do a whole beauty line. You can do a whole dog food line. You can do anything you want, and you can sell those things to generate revenue to fund what you're trying to do. I'm a firm believer that that's a wave of the future for nonprofits. I don't know about you, but I'm just tired of asking people for money. And if you live in Mobile, Alabama, and you have these fundraisers, it's the same people that go to every single fundraiser, because I go to them and I see them. Why not ask them to invest in your business that's going to generate revenue? That's going to be like, when you give me $1,000, I'm not going to come and ask you for $1,000 for the same thing. I'm going to make something that's going to generate revenue. So that's what we do. I'm not saying it's for everybody. It's been good for us. But again, it's not your savior. I still have to ask for money. And I still have to go out, and I still need donations. I got kind of prideful thinking we could generate enough money where I would never have to ask for that. But we have we're people oriented. That's our bottom line. We need to know that we can help people and get them out of where they are. And really our goal is to put ourselves out of business, but we'll always have people. So I don't think we'll ever do that. So I appreciate your time. If you have more questions, you can go on my website. You can call me. I'd love to come talk to your organization. Like I said, I'm a firm believer that this works, and it just takes time and commitment. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Matt. As you can see, if you were really hearing him, 59% of his operating revenue now is generated in that short period of time. I've been in nonprofits my entire career, and that was a long time. So it's beautiful to watch this kind of a system be put in place. And that's the kind of social enterprise that captures my heart. So thank you, Matt. We appreciate you. And now I'm going to turn it over to the other expert in the room and let Todd talk to you from Innovation Portal.
I don't even know why I'm here, because Matt really nailed it there. And you had the professor drop some knowledge on you in the beginning. Ultimately, one of the things that we look at is, for all of us, we're all looking to understand, how do we best serve our population and how do we do it sustainably? Mm-hmm. Pat laid it out at the beginning. You saw and heard in Matt's story the things that were happening. Matt referenced Homeboy Industries. And for many people, Homeboy Industries was the first opportunity to really see what this looked like. This is an organization that's about 30 years old. They are the world's largest gang rehab center that is in existence. And Father Greg Boyle really is the person that many of us learn from. We learn by seeing what this looks like. But since then, you see more and more individuals and organizations who are stepping into this opportunity. And they're stepping in because they recognize, as Matt said, it's an opportunity not only to do good in the community, but do well. Okay, so that means we give people purpose, we give them skill set, we give them opportunity to grow their understanding of how to be employable and grow in that. They also give that opportunity to be able to fund and strengthen the organization. And so we see many organizations who are stepping in. I had an opportunity to talk to a buddy of mine who's worked in nonprofits for a long time. He worked in a youth-focused environment, primarily with teens. And his idea was, hey, I'm going to buy a Subway franchise as a way to conduct workforce development and encourage the bottom line development of that organization. Because it's a whole lot easier, as Matt said, to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Come bank on the goods that we produce, rather than pay my light bills, though they are really expensive this time of year. Trust me, I operate a 30,000 square foot facility and it's 24/7. So you want to be able to make sure that you have those things in place and are moving. But what do we see? Well, we see a lot of it in the sense of we've got to step in and ask big questions about our organization. So as Pat was talking, one of the things that went through my mind is, if you've never read it, Peter Drucker's 5 most important questions. All right. Drucker's 5 most important questions dealt with the following. He said every 2 to 3 years, every organization needs to step back and retreat to understand, what is my mission? Is it still relevant? What's the vision of the future? Okay. We built our organization based upon a certain place in time. Is that still relevant? Who are my customers? What do my customers want? And of course, I'm going to forget the 5th. It is, what is your plan? There you go. So simple enough. You think about that. We all have to work through this journey as we see it. So one of the things that I use, and I use this with for-profits, with not-for-profits, with anybody, because ultimately, as a dear friend of mine once told me, he said, a nonprofit is a business. It just has a different tax status. So you don't have the option of not making profit. You just don't distribute your proceeds in the same way. Incredibly important to remember. So I'm going to share a screen here real quick, and we're going to go through, I want to hit just a couple pieces on this. So hopefully you're able to see in the share. It's up. Great. And I want to hit not so much about what we do and the cool things that happen. Actually, let me stop for a second, because one of the things when we talk about social enterprise, the 2 on the left, monthly, that's ICO Pickering, and in the middle, schools, Valencia Bell, they're actually some of the first for-profit B Corps that are coming online in the state of Alabama. So a for-benefit corporation is another way in which a for-profit entity can determine that they want to give their proceeds into that social good, and they do so under a tax status that allows them a governance with the IRS to say, yes, it is not just that we have to distribute our proceeds for the best of the good of our shareholders, it also can be for the good of our stakeholders in our community. All right. Hunter or farmer. All right. So one of the things that we know, change is our constant, right? Right. Okay. Going back to Heraclitus, to Benjamin Franklin, my more recent one, Peter Vail. Vail said we're living in a time of permanent whitewater, and he said that in the mid-1980s. So if you step back and you think about what we've experienced over the last couple of years, it's a joke to me to think that it was talked about permanent whitewater. Everything around us, though, is change, except sometimes in our organizations, we forget to, all right? Hopefully, we remember where we were founded. You know, I remember playing with the cups and having the ability to communicate. We remember flip phones, and though, yes, they have made a comeback, but we know in the future there's things like holographic phones. We know those changes are before us. So we have to ask the question, and please listen to exploitation here. I am not talking about the negative facet of that term. I'm talking about getting as much value as possible. We have to live as any organization in a constant balance between exploration and exploitation. So the analogy here, and this is Jeremy Gooch in his book Trend Hunter and his work on trendhunter.com, he talks about farmers. Many nonprofits are farmers. We replicate that long-term sustainability. We stake a ground, we stay unmoved, we are loyal, consistent, disciplined. But we also get a little protective and potentially even complacent. All right, so we're tilling that soil, we're working that soil over and over and over again. And before we look up and recognize it, the entire world around us has changed, and they no longer care about what we're delivering. So the mindset here is that in every organization, we need to lay aside a certain portion of our time to be hunters. We need to take time to look at adapting and finding the new opportunities, seeking to see where those uncharted territories are, making sure that we're curious, we're insatiable, and heaven forbid, in a nonprofit, we are willing to destroy. We've got to remember sometimes that fatted calf needs to go away because it doesn't really exist in the same need anymore. All right. But now, admittedly, hunting is unpredictable. There are times you're going to go out and you're going to come back with nothing, but you have to continue to go out. And so when we look at this, that hunting and farming strategy, think about it. If you're a farmer and your grants and your typical donations and your model of that nature is your farming. These are the things, oh, it's the good old reliable. We know so-and-so is going to continue to give. We know this foundation is going to continue to give. Hunting is your opportunity for your social enterprise to stake new territory. It's an opportunity, and don't look at it as taking out the entire thing. Look at it as complementary. You want to make sure that you have the balance, but you never want to be over-reliant on any single revenue stream or revenue source in your organization. We know when COVID happened, it changed a lot of how we function and thought. It changed the way that donations were coming in. We know anytime we go through an economic recession, or even that R word starts to get floated around, everybody gets a little tight with their pocketbook, right? Same thing happened in funding in the startup world. So we're constantly looking to ask these questions. What's out there, right? So we have to continue to look. And so what does it mean for you? It means you have to replace complacency with insatiability, replace repetition with curiosity, replace your protectiveness with a willingness to destroy. And so I look at it this way, all right? If you're going to get started in this, the first thing that you need to do is look out to the horizon. You need to look out to the future, and how is the future changing? How is it changing the way that we think about where people are coming to us from? What's that population look like? What are the needs? How is the demographics around me changing? Who else is serving that demographic group or that population? All right. We have to work to develop urgency. The reality is it's always a whole lot easier to push that off to tomorrow than it is to do it today. But if we don't do it today and we think we're going to do it tomorrow, we're going to end up with a lot of yesterdays that are really undervalued. All right. We've got to shift the mindset in our organizations. And that means we've got to take time with our board members, with our volunteers, with our staff to talk about what's actually possible. The next one down is really important. We talk about hypothesis testing all the time. Matt said it. If I give you this, new rub for your barbecue that you're going to sell, is it going to make you money? Man, it might not. It might be an absolute loss and a failure. But if you aren't willing to test and see, you are going to stymie any possible growth. After you test and see, you bring those concrete results back, or those results back, you make those actions, you build the plan, and then, as Pat talked about before, you have to measure your results. So that's some of where we would look at and how we would walk through this process. I think it's incredibly important for every organization to recognize that you have the ability to create that margin for growth, but it doesn't happen without taking some risk.
Thank you. Didn't I tell you I was sitting between two experts? It's so exciting. So thank you for being here today and listening to us. I don't know, are you monitoring the chat, Krista? Are there any questions there, or?
There are not, but we wanted to continue the conversation as it related to the community resources that we have. Like Matt mentioned, he is partnering with the City of Mobile. And we also have Archnique Kids, the supplier diversity manager for the City of Mobile, that is going to share or provide an update for our guests today to Pat on how the City of Mobile can assist our nonprofits and other community members in exploring social enterprise.
So good afternoon. And the City of Mobile has a number of ways of which we help both nonprofits as well as for-profit businesses. Many of us through our neighborhood and community development department are familiar with programs whether it be through Mobile Community Action, Legal Services of Mobile, as well as a number of other agencies throughout the city of which we provide federal funding in order for our citizens to receive. And I heard someone mention the rental assistance, the mortgage assistance. We provide funding for all of those programs, including a number of other programs, which also include food pantries and a number of other things. Also, through my department, we provide funding for small business assistance and minority business assistance, as well as Section 3 assistance, and then Section 3 employment on our HUD-funded projects. So there are a number of grant opportunities that are there for both nonprofit organizations as well as for-profit organizations when it comes to those startup businesses and those businesses that may have owners that are low to moderate income. And for many who may not know what low to moderate income is, it is the HUD term that they use to identify what individuals will be able to take advantage of those programs. And they do have an income level that is based on the number of individuals that are in a household, whether they be adults or children. And that's how we determine if they are Section 3 certified. Once they become a Section 3 certified individual, they decide that they may want to start their own business as opposed to working with someone else. Then we can provide, if they are in construction or a construction support company, we can provide assistance to them in the form of what we call a micro loan. However, that micro loan actually turns into a grant. That's up to $2,500 in order to assist those individuals with some of the hardest things in order to get their businesses up and running, which are primarily their bonding, insurance, as well as some of their certifications that they have to have. The City of Mobile also provides grant opportunities to homeowners that fit within that Section 3 category of low to moderate income to have repairs done to their home. So currently, prior to COVID, we were able to do inside, interior, as well as exterior homes to have homes repaired. But once COVID hit, we were no longer allowed to go inside and we're only able to do exterior. Soon we may be moving back to the interior grant opportunities for our citizens to be able to have home repair done. Now, the bad part about that is we only have a certain amount of funding available for those programs, but our main goal is to get that information out to the community, but also get that funding into our nonprofits' hands so that they can better assist the community as well. With our ARPA funding, the City of Mobile, and I'm sure you all have heard in the news, both past and present, if any of you pay attention to council meeting, we give updates on our ARPA funding. Those fundings also went to nonprofit agencies in order to assist the community, but we also had $2 million of that funding that went into a loan program for small business owners. Now, we do have to adhere to the federal guidelines for those particular fundings and make sure that they go within a certain geographical area, but also there are also a number of other requirements that go along with that funding. But that funding is available for small businesses through Commonwealth Bank. With the Office of Supplier Diversity, we also provide a number of other resources for those nonprofits and or people who aspire to start a nonprofit or a small business. In the way of our Work with City of Mobile website. That website is not just for individuals who want to work with the City of Mobile. It actually takes them through setting up their business step by step. It explains what an EIN number, how you determine what type of company you want to have, whether it be an LLC, a S Corp, a C Corp. But it basically breaks that down into layman's terms so that they understand better what they're doing when they're trying to set that business up and get that business up and running. Through that particular portal, we are also able to assist and connect those individuals with our resources for small businesses. Todd at Innovation Portal is one of those resources, as well as we have the Mobile Area Chamber. We've got Mobile Black Chamber of Commerce. We have some financial institutions, those, and what many don't know is that if we have a business owner that cannot obtain a loan or assistance through an actual regular bank, we have community development corporations that they can go to as well and apply for loans and may be able to qualify through those agencies without having the high interest rates and the stipulations that will be put on by a traditional banking institution. We also have, I see we've got Kevin Cooper with Operation Hope, who is on the call as well. But Operation Hope has also started to assist us with our small business owners, again, who may need a little bit of hand holding through that financial process before we actually send them to a banking institution or some type of financial institution in order to get a loan if they need a loan at that particular time. So we're primarily a resource here, but also assisting with small business development. We put on what we call Contractors College, and Contractors College was basically developed so that we could assist our minority businesses with learning the process. Right now is project management, and we're looking to add a number of other courses to it, but teaching them how to manage an actual project. So it takes them from the conception of getting the actual project all the way through OSHA 10-hour OSHA training. They also receive training on how to bid, how to set up their vendors within a financial system, how to handle the actual job site itself, as well as their employees on the job site. So they receive all information needed, and that particular course is through Bishop State Community College. It is a NCCER certified course, so they actually receive college credits for that course. The city of Mobile pays for the course, so the business owner does not have to provide any type of financing to the course. They don't have to take out a student loan or anything. The only thing we do ask that they pay for is once they complete the course, we do have graduation ceremony and they have to pay for their own cap and gown, but everything else is taken care of. And it is a full semester long course, but once they're completed, they do have credentials as well as their 10-hour OSHA training certificate as well. So that's just a number of things that we do here at the City of Mobile through the Office of Supplier Diversity and Neighborhood Development.
Thank you, Archnique.
You're welcome. And I've also put the Work with City of Mobile website in the chat box. So if anyone wants to look at that website and get more information, they're more than welcome to go there.
Wonderful. We appreciate that. We really, when we were planning this call, we just wanted to show the community and our guests the many facets of resources as it applies to social enterprise. And so I really feel like that was achieved through this conversation. We have a few moments left. I have not seen any questions in the chat. So if anyone has a question for one of our panelists, you do feel free to unmute and ask that question.
Good afternoon, this is Dr. Peebles at the IFC's Mobile. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Feeble.
Well, I really thank you guys for having me for connecting in meetings frequently. It's just that I usually have a standing commitment every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. That's why I usually have to send staff member to take care of that, but I was able to clear my schedule today because we've got some exciting news to share with the community. First of all, as I may have told you before, we've been going through a major organizational transformation here at the Independent Living Center, and we've had a couple of growing pains and staff turnover and things. But just this past Friday, we were able to bring in that go public factory. Brought an old friend of ours, Lynn McDonald, back as our COO.
Okay.
So Lynn's right here. Say I can.
Hello, I think Pat Scanland would remember me as Lynn Mans Walters, and she's probably surprised to learn that I married Michael McDonald. Brad Martin and I know one another from WHIL, and Denise knows me from 15 Place. I've been long retired, and I'm quite surprised to find myself back at work.
Well, as I always say, welcome to the party, because this is a party with this group. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to share with us?
Yes, we have been getting calls, speaking of socially responsible and socially involved businesses, plenty of calls from our clients who have access and accessibility issues for their own homes. So let's put out our phone number and have people call who are capable or willing to build wheelchair ramps for our people.
Install grandfather.
Can I speak into that right now? So Matt and I were just talking. So Kingdom Renovation Foundation actually does ramps. It's a local organization and they very much fit in this model. They have a for-profit business doing home renovation, and their nonprofit is built to train young people with the skills and tools to be able to do construction, and they facilitate that through the development of ramps. So that's Kingdom Renovation Foundation, and the executive director and founder is Tyrone Petway.
Okay. And then I was going to add VOA offers that service as well, and Catholic Social Services, but those agencies may have a wait list because this need is great in our community.
I know Catholic Social does because I ran into Jeannie, and I ran into Jeannie still at another meeting, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the wedding was closed and we're not opening again until January." So both those programs have very limited, very limited resources over a wide service area. We're just trying to cultivate resources as best we can, so this need can be met all year round by a cadre of agencies.
And just to note for Matt, be prepared, we have a whole lot of electronic
Garbage.
Not garbage, recyclables. They'll be coming to you in a hurry.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for that. We are actually at the end of our time together. All of our speakers have put their contact information in the chat. So if you have anything that you would like to ask them specifically, please reach out. I'm gonna launch our poll just to get your feedback from today's presentation. And then our next gathering will take place in October. That's going to be the first Wednesday of October. And that is going to be Wednesday, October the 4th. And of course, we convene at 1 p.m. via Zoom. So again, thank you all for signing in. This will go out on our United Way YouTube page, and so you can share it with the rest of your network and colleagues at your organization. So, all right, have a great day.
The great thing in the